And we've learned that the reigning Super Bowl champion quarterback, Matthew Stafford, who can ram it all day and ram it all night, has been sidelined. Why? Bad tendonitis in his right elbow. That's his throwing elbow. Stafford had a procedure done this offseason to help with the problem. Apparently, it didn't work. It's popped back up. Did not have surgery. He was given plasma injections. I wonder if he went to Tijuana to get those. I don't know. So what's the deal on this? Now, Sean McVay, boy wonder, the Ram coach, says, well, he actually said something that was rather interesting. He said it is a little bit abnormal for a quarterback to have this type of injury. So that raised some eyebrows and said, well, wait a minute. What's up with that? A little bit abnormal, and the season begins in about a month? What are we doing? Holy cannoli. All right, so let us discuss the question, how concerned are the Rams over Matthew Stafford's elbow? So anytime you ask a question of how concerned someone is, you have to turn to the most reliable source of concern in all of overnight talk radio. The MALLER scale of concern, 1 to 10, with 10 being your arm amputated, the worst case scenario. So 1 to 10 on the MALLER scale of concern, and I am at a 3. A 3 on the MALLER scale of concern. That's it, 3. I've got piñata, Maytag, and rosary beads. And we will lock all of these random things together like Legos. We'll lock them in place. So, number one. Matthew Stafford being dinged up does not resonate with me as high crimes and misdemeanors. Does not resonate as a 5-alarm fire. He has been able to handle the life in the blender, playing for a miserable team in Detroit all those years, getting beat up year after year after year. Stafford has been battered, bruised, and completely beaten over the course of his career. And if you look at all the injuries that have taken place, this is small potatoes, is what this is. The Lions treated him over the years like a human piñata at a child's birthday party, some 8-year-old's birthday party, and you blindfold the kids, you give them a Louisville Slugger, and take a shot at the Stafford piñata. You get a swing, you in the back, everyone gets a swing. Now, the disheartening part of this is the fact that it's training camp. Not a game. We're talking about training camp. Typically, you start feeling out great. The season begins, you're feeling pretty good, and then you get served the sandwich, the knuckle sandwich, and that takes its toll through the season, and it's a war of attrition to the end of the regular season. But if you start out injured, that's not great. But despite that, I am at a 3 on this one because while it is discomforting, it's the throwing elbow for Stafford, this is the time of the year that Stafford wouldn't be playing anyway. It's not like he's going to learn anything new at this point. The NFL stopped practicing hard in training camp years ago. I wish they did play hard. If you saw, I watched 5 good minutes of the Jacksonville-Las Vegas game, and that's all I need to say. It was a bad product. I get that people like the logos and the helmets bouncing back and forth, but the product was unwatchable, and that's how most of these exhibition games are in the NFL. So Stafford wasn't going to play anyway. And he's got what I was told is thrower's elbow, like pitcher's elbow, which is an extremely common issue if you throw a baseball. Not something that normally happens with football. That's why Sean McVay said it's abnormal. But it's something that takes place in spring training for pitchers quite often. They call it the dead arm period. And the recovery time on this, it's typically anywhere from a couple of weeks to a month. So if it's a month, then he'll be ready to go when the season comes around. At the first game of the season, he'll be ready to go. It's a soft tissue injury right around the elbow. And now we'll revisit this. If we kick off the regular season and Stafford's out there and he's looking like Chef Boyardee and he's throwing out SpaghettiOs, we will take another look at this. But at this point, it's a 3. I am only at a 3 on the MALLER scale of concern. Now, page 2. Is Matthew Stafford set up for a regression to the mean in 2022? I bring this up because I did get an email from one of you knuckleheads, Steve. You know who you are. I don't even know where Steve is, but Steve sent me a message saying, "Hey, I hope you enjoyed that Super Bowl because Stafford, he's gonna not be the same guy this year." I'm like, okay. And I'm sure Steve's not the only guy that feels that way. It's a popular storyline, right? The doomsday crowd. The same people that said Stafford was not going to win the Super Bowl are now saying he'll never win again and all that. But on this one, I am Benny Brightside. And I'm going to tell you why. Not his first rodeo. He did not, in my eyes, have a career year last season. Some will say statistically he had a career year, but he left some touchdowns on the field. He played with better players. And Matthew Stafford has been, over the course of his career, as dependable as a Maytag dishwasher, right? Built strong and built to last and last for the long haul. And you look at the cardboard, okay, and you know what you're going to get. And they still make football cards, but if you look at the Pro Football Reference page of Matthew Stafford, when he has played with above-average talent around him, Stafford will give you somewhere between 35 and 40 touchdowns and around 15 interceptions. And he's sure to have a few hiccups where the turnover boogeyman haunts him and becomes problematic and all that, and he starts seeing goblins and apparitions and all that. That'll happen. And he did see an exorcist during the playoffs to keep a lot of that away, but none of that matters now, right? And the numbers don't even really matter. It's all about wins and losses, wins and blankety-blank losses, not fantasy stats. And the fact that he averaged over 8 yards per attempt was wonderful. But elite quarterback play with the Ram receivers. If you are a halfway competent quarterback, you're going to have great numbers because the Rams are loaded and Sean McVay is one of the great minds in football today. So I don't see a regression to the mean because I don't think Stafford went way above his ability level last season. He played very well, and there was a stretch where he was horrible for 3 consecutive games when the Rams couldn't get out of their own way. And everyone wrote him off and said they'll never win anything, and then they all looked like donkeys when it was done. All right, final point. So let's do the worst-case scenario. Let's say that it's something more. We're not getting told the truth here, that it's not actually a thrower's elbow or pitcher's elbow. There's something else going on. Could the Rams survive Matthew Stafford missing time? So could is a weasel word. So could they? Sure. It clearly depends on how long Stafford would be out. Next man up, do your job, all about that. Now, we don't expect him to miss an extended period of time unless we're being lied to. But let's play devil's advocate and let's imagine, if you will, a dimension where Stafford does miss a chunk of time. What do the Rams do? Now, the immediate reaction would be, well, you got to turn to rosary beads, right? You got to keep track of how many prayers you're going to make because you're going to need to make a lot of prayers. But never underestimate the power of a backup. And John Wolford's been hanging out. He's going to get the chance. You might not know who that is. He has been groomed under the Sean McVay umbrella for a couple of years. This is year 3 for John Wolford. And is there going to be a massive drop-off? Talent-wise, sure, because Wolford's not somebody that was drafted as the number 1 pick like Matthew Stafford was, so he can't make all the throws. And Wolford, in his career, has only attempted 42 passes. 42 passes in his NFL career. He did start 1 game in the regular season. He actually started a playoff game when Jared Goff was in the doghouse before he got sent packing, and he got hurt in that playoff game. It was against the Seattle Seahawks back in the day, And so the way I read the room, for 3 or 4 games, I think the Rams will be fine. After that, usually with a backup quarterback, if you have to play your backup more than a month, the league starts figuring things out and it becomes an issue. And then you've got to start waving the yellow caution flag. And you don't want to do that because those imperfections, the deformities start popping up. The moles and the warts start seeing the light, and it becomes a problem.